let's continue working on page 5 of lesson 7, module 3. Over halfway done. Yay! So at the end of the last video, we were talking about the vertical intercept, and I always like draw a little picture just so I make sure I get the right one. So that's the y-intercept, and that means x is 0, which I should have written there. So we know from the equation, I'll make this bigger. We know from the equation that this is the y-intercept. Remember, this is the slope, whatever's in front of the variable. This is the y-intercept, but you have to first make x 0. So x is 0, pull the y-intercept down. And I see they want us to write about it here. So as soon as I wrote my order pair, then I labeled what each thing was from our previous, let's see, gotta find the page, sorry. So I went back to the table, and X is the number of years since 2010. So number of years since 2010. Y is profit in dollars. So I labeled each of those number of years since 2010, profit in dollars. So then they want us to write a sentence about it. Once you get those labeled from your table, your X and your Y, and if that helps you, you can put that there too. Once you get those labeled, then the sentence just kind of falls in your lap. So 0 years since 2010, what year would that be? 2010. If it was 1, it'd be 2011. If it was 10, it'd be 2020. So it's 0 years. So don't say in 0 years after 2010. Compute it and write a date. If 0 years after, it would be in 2010. So you want to write like you would speak in the real world, because that's what we're getting ready for, the real world. So in 2010, the pizzeria's profit in dollars, or profit, was $2,000. The pizzeria's profit was $2,000. So in 2010, because that's 0 years after 2010, the pizzeria's profit was $2,000. And it's always the table that will help you with these labels, or sometimes it's in the opening paragraph. So put the labels on, write your sentence. Okay, 5A, if your pizzeria continues to make a profit, predict what its profit will be in 2018. Well, anytime we're doing predictions, we always know we're going to use our equation. So I'm copying the equation from the top of the sheet that we already brought over. So I just got it from up here. So now we have to decide, what am I going to do with 2018? Am I going to put 2018 in for P? Am I going to put 2018 in for T? Or none of the above? Well, remember to look up at your order pair, and our X, which is T, is number of years since 2010. So what's T going to be? 8, right? Because it's 8 years after 2010. So what this is asking me to do is plug in 8 for T, because T is time, P is profit. Plug in 8 for T and figure out what their profit will be. So their profit after 8 years will be 2,500 times 8 plus 2,000. So let's go ahead and use our calculator to get that answer. So 2,500 times 8 plus 2,000. So they're going to have a whopping $22,000 profit. P of 8 equals $22,000. So don't forget your dollar sign. So usually we have you write a sentence. So let's go ahead and write a sentence for this one. So in 2018, the pizzeria's profit will be $22,000. $22,000. Just make sure and put labels on everything, because when we're grading this, I wish I was still grading paper pencil, but when we're grading this, that's what we look for. Is it a complete sentence? Is everything labeled? So the date obviously doesn't need a label, but this needs the dollar sign. You've told what it is, and so on. Okay, if this trend continues, in what year will the profit be 27,000? So I always know anytime they're asking us for missing values, that we're going to go back to the equation. So that's my first thing. So now I look and go, 27,000, is that my P or is that my T? P is profit, T is time, years since 2018. So does everybody agree it's got to be this, P? So I can't put it in for T. That's time. So this whole thing is P. It's just saying the function P with respect to T, but this whole thing is P. So on this one, I'm not going to place it in for T because T is years. I'm going to replace this whole side of the equation, the P, with 27,000. And I think that's one of the most important things we learn in this module is where to put our numbers. So you can't just always stick them in for X or always stick them in for whatever's over here. You have to read the problem. When it says profit, then it replaces P. When it says years, which is time, then it replaces the T. So you can't always put them in the same place. It all depends on what you're given. So now we have to solve this equation. So I need anything without a variable on one side, and I figure since the number is already over there, we'll just leave it there. So then we get 25,000 equal 2,500 T. And I like my variable on the left, so I'm going to put it over there. And then only one step left, right? We need to get T alone. So do the opposite of multiply by 2,500, which would be divide by 2,500. So that 0 can be gone, that 0 can be gone. So 25 divided by 25 is 1, and add a 0, so that'll be 10. But look what the question says. In what year? It doesn't say in how many years. It says in what year. So what year would that be if T is 10? Remember what this is. Number of years since 2010. So 2010 plus 10 makes it the present year. So 2010 plus 10, that'd be 2020. And our sentence would be, the profit will be 27,000 in the year 2020. That wasn't so bad, huh? I like that problem, actually. I think it's a good one. It's a good test question problem. Okay, let's go ahead and see what the next page looks like. Oh, I think we have time to do one of these, and then we'll do the next one on the next video. So on a particular trip, the Acela Express train travels from Boston to Washington, D.C. When the train reaches New Haven, it has traveled 1 hour and 30 minutes and covered 120 miles. By the time the train reaches Philadelphia, it has traveled 3 hours and 45 minutes and covered 300 miles. Find the average speed of the train. And then I gave you a little hint. Change the minutes to hours. So like if it's 2 hours and 30 minutes, that'd be 2.5 hours. That's what that's saying to do. So when they say this, average speed, does that make you think of average rate of change or slope? That's what that's asking for. Remember how we did that activity that had the 8 different scenarios on it? That was the common thing they used, was the word average. So in order to do slope, the first thing that should pop in your head is you go, oh, I need 2 points. So Miss Norris taught us on the first day of the semester that time is always your x. So that means that must be our y. So 1 hour, 30 minutes, 120 miles. And it says change the minutes to hours as a fraction. So as a decimal, it would be 1.5 hours. As a fraction, it would be 1.5 hours, right? And remember, time is always your x. So 1.5 hours goes with 120 miles. And let's write that up here. Our order pair is going to be time, comma, miles. So as we learned on the very first day, time is almost always our x. So if I have a choice, I always make it my x. So 1.5 hours, and there's really no problem with making it 1.5. It just says write it as a fraction, so I did. So 1.5 hours, 120 miles, 3 hours and 45 minutes. So does everybody know that's 3/4 of an hour? Right? 15 minutes is 1/4 of an hour, 30 minutes is 1/2 of an hour, 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour. So this would be 3 3/4, comma, 300. Okay, so the minute you see average speed, average rate of change, you should be thinking slope formula. And the minute you think of slope formula, then you got to think, oh, I need 2 points. So then you go back and see time, miles, time, miles. So you get it ready. So now we're ready to use our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So second y, 300, minus the first y, 120. Over second x, 3 3/4, minus the first x, 1 1/2. So you may think, oh, this is ugly. No, not really. We can do it all on the calculator. So first we need to compute the numerator. So that'd be 300 minus 120, and that gives us 180. And then we do the denominator, 3. Does everybody remember how to do a mixed number in the calculator? So you have to hit the fraction bar twice. So watch my keystrokes here. So 3, fraction bar, 3, fraction bar 4. So that's what 3 3/4 looks like. Minus, and then do the same thing. 1, fraction bar, 1, fraction bar, 2. And then it's 2 1/4.